And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Black and Blue Pod, the sports podcast where we will talk shit and probably bruise each other's egos or someone else's who gets mentioned in this show. I am Matt McLaughlin, joined alongside Timmy Gorman, and the NFL season is finally upon us. It is Thursday, September 8th. By the time you are listening to this, Rams, Bills on Thursday Night Football will kick off week one of the 2022 season. And we are here to give our full predictions on who's going to make it far, who's not, who can disappoint, and of course, will Jalen Hurts actually be the guy moving forward? We have no fucking clue. And so we're planning to answer some of those questions in this podcast. So, Timmy, let's just jump right into the birds, okay? Since we've last talked about the Eagles, they traded for CJ Gardner-Johnson. Andre Dillard gets put on the IL, or the IR. We were talking Phillies earlier before we started taping, so I'm thinking baseball. And so he's going to be out at least the first 4 games of the season, which can hurt the depth on the offensive line, which is kind of known for getting some injuries in past years. But for the time being, the offensive line is fully healthy. Jason Kelce's going to continue his consecutive start streak. He'll be ready to go week one. And Howie Roseman finally admitted to fucking up with Jalen Reagor and JJ Arcega-Whiteside. Those two guys are gone from this team, so it's not this cloud hanging over the wide receiver room. And so here are our original predictions when the schedule release first came out towards the beginning of summer. You predicted 12-5. I predicted 11-6. Since then, how are you thinking? Are you thinking that's still a good prediction? You still sticking with that, or do you think maybe they overachieve that or underachieve that?
I couldn't believe that I said 12-5. I like, now that I think back on it, when we first did it, because we definitely, like, the optimism has skyrocketed over the last week. It started with the trades of Rager and JJ, or I think a Whiteside, like that was just like positive energy. Just it's like, all right, they're gone. The irony to all the Eagles fans are they sent them to the teams who have the wide receivers that we wanted them to take.
I know
in the drafts, which is just like, I don't know. It's just kind of like funny in that way, but there are problems now. And like that just kind of started the like goodwill. It was like, all right, let's just get rid of them. Let's not even have to worry about them being in the offense anymore. We can concentrate on AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and the backs, and
Quez Watkins, who ripped off
love.
A couple big plays last season.
Exactly. And so, just focus on the talent that we know is there. And then last week, great news, because if anything, I think everyone thought the secondary was probably our weakest spot, or the safety spot, which for years we've been clamoring for a new safety ever since Dawkins left. I know for me specifically, even though he eventually made good on the draft pick, and he's one of the main reasons that we won the Super Bowl in 2017, that it's Brandon Graham, and he's turned out to have a really good Eagles career. For years, though, I used to call him should be Earl Thomas, because when that draft happened in 2009, we were coming off an championship game run. Dawkins left because we didn't want to pay him the money, and everyone knew, hey, we got to backfill that position. We could have had Earl Thomas, and instead we took Brandon Graham. Took a couple of years for him to make it worth it, but he did. But that we eventually signed Malcolm Jenkins. But it's always been not having that safety has always been a point of contention, along with our linebacking core. And then finally, over the offseason, between the draft and signing free agents, the linebacking core kind of got addressed. And then we go and make this great trade for a guy who's versatile. He's kind of like the new Malcolm Jenkins. He can play safety in the box, or he's a cover corner. I think like the PFF grades him out as the best nickel corner in all of football, or at least, he thinks he is, but he's up there in the top 10.
I was going to say the best thing coming out of this, the news of that trade, was all the montages of him talking trash to Brady on Thursday Night Football. And it's like, yo, okay, this is the dude that was born and meant to be in Philly. Kind of like what we were talking about with the Schwarber and Castellanos press conferences. We're not here to talk about the Phillies, but it was just a very similar vibe and energy.
The second he got traded, he was right, like instantly on Twitter, fly Eagles fly. Like That's
Yeah.
someone who gets it to a degree. He definitely, I think, is going to fit right in. He's going to bring some swagger to the defense. Uh, Swagger from that has kind of been lost since that Super Bowl run team, mainly because of injuries and aging and, letting some players go. But the second that trade was made and then we realized that we only gave up so much, it was like, oh my God.
He had 135 yards on 7 catches against Washington in week 14. That was the game where he really broke out because that was like
Right.
week of Christmas. And he just exploded. So yeah, I agree. Dallas Goedert gets very disrespected.
And that's what I'm saying. You look at all these other people like Waller, Kelsey. The offense is geared toward these guys. Like Waller is so good because David Carr, before he got what's his name, Devontae Adams or Derek Carr. Sorry, I'm thinking of his brother because that's who I knew first. That's who I remember watching first at Fresno. Yeah. They both went to Fresno, but you know what I mean. But Derek Carr would literally force feed Waller the ball because he had nobody else to throw to until now he's got Devontae Adams, but also until last year when what's his name from the white boy
Renfro, Hunter Renfro.
Yeah, Renfro, became a great slot receiver. But it's like, yeah, if Goddard was force fed the ball as much as Waller or Kelsey was, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but let's. So
I just it bothers me.
No,
that he doesn't get the love.
So for all of our gambling friends, which are probably most of my FanDuel odds on the division, Eagles are plus 130 as the favorites to win the division. Plus 155 is the Cowboys at second. Then it goes all the way to plus 600 on Washington. So if you're really feeling frisky and want to bet on Carson Wentz to have a career year somehow, plus 600, or if you're really just want to just have misery in your life, the Giants are plus 800 on FanDuel, according to RotoWire, as we're taping this on Wednesday night. So sure, if you want to do that, go ahead. But it's the Eagles. It feels like this could be the ceiling could legitimately be a Super Bowl win. Like this could legitimately be a Super Bowl winning team. And that's where I kind of want to transition into the other divisions, because we're going to go through the whole like playoff brackets and stuff and who we think are going to win the division, maybe bounce or get, kind of upset a few people. So yes or no, are the Eagles capable of winning the Super Bowl in 2022 with everyone else?
I think we have a talented enough roster. I think the NFC is completely up for grabs. There's no one. It's not like the AFC where you have like 7 to 8 surefire teams. You still got the Packers. The Vikings got a new head coach who was the Rams coordinator last year. So everyone's kind of expecting like big things for Thielen and Jefferson again, after they already didn't have big things going. But, they're expecting one of them to basically become this year's Cooper Kupp. The Packers have Rodgers, so you can never discount that. The Bucs and Brady, if he doesn't retire by week 4, because who knows what's going on with him. Yeah. And then out west, you got the Rams. I'm sorry, you don't discount the defending Super Bowl champs until they're down and out. You don't. They still have most of their parts together. I think the Stafford injury stuff's being overblown because people just never have been a big Matthew Stafford guy, but he got his ring and he's still not getting the love. I think McVay is one of the best coaches in the league. You still got the defense together. You got healthy running backs. You still got Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson. Who knows what he can do with a real quarterback for the first time. So I won't discount them. The 49ers are clearly a wild card because who knows with Trey Lance, but it could be like the Lamar Jackson thing where he just has a crazy year that no one like really saw coming. So there's no surefire number one. I feel like it's kind of like a roulette table where it's like what's it going to land on?
Yeah, with the Rams, like yes, they brought a lot of starters back, and I'll get into my thoughts on the Rams tease. But with the Rams, even then, it doesn't feel like, just because they have some question marks about is the Stafford elbow injury concern getting overblown? Probably, yeah, probably. But I still think that that'll be a lingering issue throughout the season, and that's kind of led to the perception that maybe they're not at full strength, and it was kind of like a lightning in the bottle type deal. Not saying it was. That doesn't discount their championship, incredible Super Bowl. But can they do that again? It feels like they were on such a high level, and with Cooper Kupp having such a historic season, that for them
Should have been the MVP.
to repeat that again is very daunting. It's a very daunting task, and
Right.
who knows if they can do it again. So in the AFC, we're going to get to the AFC in a little bit, actually, excuse me. But staying in the NFC, I'm all over the place. With staying in the NFC, I agree the Bucks are a mystery because just the lack of continuity at the quarterback position, which Tom Brady, for a guy who's been keeping stuff in-house and not really having anything leak or having any, real serious public issues, it's kind of weird that he's just dipping in and out of the building. Not dipping in and out, but he took that absence from the Bucks just in halfway through training camp. Like, that's
like his retort was like, I'm 45-year-old and I'm a 45-year-old
yeah.
married man. Like, shit happens. Like, I got shit going
I'm a
on or
45-year-old
something.
man. I got shit. Shit happens, or I got shit going on.
Which
And
makes
then
me
there was a
seem
whole.
like things aren't great with old Giselle.
Well, there was that whole, and then earlier this week or last week, there was a Page 6 article suggesting that he took an absence because there is a fight going on between them, and it's just this whole argument that maybe their marriage is at stake. Now, is that our place to judge whether that marriage is at stake or not? Absolutely not. Could someone just be leaking this stuff to the press to try and get clicks and get a quick payment for an article that Page 6 knows won't get clicks? Possibly. But it
Right.
is just very strange that the guy who's been known for consistency and showing up every day, Tom Brady is in
Being
that same
there.
category as Kobe Bryant when it comes to like the image in sports of working hard and dedication and commitment. And for
being
him to
prepared.
and just taking a break and just leaving.
It's not Tom Brady. And I will, and people could be like, oh, so what? Like, he's like Tom Brady. Like, you could find someone else. It's like, no, man. Like, you're having trouble at home
Mm,
with your significant other. It affects every aspect of your life. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, because anyone who's been through it can tell you, whether you're a professional athlete or not. And it's through the years, it's been, it's wreaked havoc on many a person in the pro sports world, whether a coach or a player or,
yeah,
actors, just normal everyday people. It will. And it's for Brady to give
it's
that answer.
strange.
It's very strange. So that, yeah, so like, like I said, it's up in the air, and it all comes down to it's three big things for the Eagles. It's Hurts, most importantly.
Mhm.
Like, is he ready? Can he take the step? Is he progress as a passer? Because if not, that really just that could derail us. Number two is the health of the health of the main players, like our line sticking together, our running backs, being able to utilize the wide receivers, and everyone clicking. And number three is the play calling on both defense and offense. Like, is Sirianni ready to take that step too? Is Gannon going to prove that he just needed the right personnel and his defense is
Mhm.
going to click now? Like, what, there's no excuses. Everything's on the table. So, like, I think this team wants to play for Sirianni. The Gannon thing still gives me some pause, but the talent is there. And I think most Philadelphia fans are a little bit skeptical because so many outsiders are now jumping on the bandwagon and being like, this could be the team. But, I think this is the most optimism that people have felt for an Eagles team since probably 2017. So we had the
Yeah.
talent, but there's three huge questions, and if even one of them isn't answered, I think it could really affect how far we can go. I think this is a playoff team no matter what. But if one of those things, especially the quarterback or the play calling, doesn't add up, then this could easily just be a team that makes it to the first round and is done, and that's that.
They got to get double-digit wins. I think they got to get double-digit wins. You can't go 9-8.
Yeah, you have to get
And
11 at the minimum, so you can have home field advantage for at least one, if not two rounds. And if not, maybe somehow snag that number one seed. I don't want to get too optimistic. I want to stay level. We're Philly fans. We're not. We were born to be cautious, But, it's I just I just this Sunday could tell a lot, but it also couldn't. And I could see it going one of two ways where we come out and we just smoke the Lions, or we struggle like 2014 when there was all that optimism going to Chip Kelly's second year, and it took us like a quarter and a half to get going against the Jaguars, and then they finally got it going, and it was like, all right, cool. But it's like I could see us losing to the Lions and everyone freaking out and it still being fine. But I just think Sunday is very important. They need to get off to a good start and show that they're ready to take the division by the horns and also be a serious contender in the NFC.
So, all right. So, score prediction for opener against the Lions.
So I'm going to go with the fact that I still don't think the Lions have a great defense. I still think that if we get some pressure on Jared Goff, we can force him into some dumb decisions. The line right now is we're being favored by 4, 48.5 over under. I think that the Eagles could easily just come out of there and blitz them real quick at home and kind of put them in a hole. And I honestly think that I wouldn't be surprised to see us put up about, I'd say anywhere between 31, 34 points. So I'm going to go 34-13 Eagles.
You got 34-13 Eagles. I like that. I would definitely take the over. I think 48.5. It's either going to turn to a blowout or a shootout, either way. And I think this could be like the wake up call that like we just kind of fell in love with the Lions during Hard Knocks. And maybe this turns into what the Atlanta opener last year was, and the offense just comes out swinging and just drops
And we
30
keep the
plus points.
momentum. And we keep the momentum instead of falling back down to earth like we did in week 2.
Exactly.
Or one of these teams is getting a wake up call. Either the Hard Knocks boost isn't there, or all the optimism from the Eagles got to their head and it hurts, isn't ready, and the Gardner Minshew calls start early.
Oh, geez. So I'm gonna go 37-20 Eagles win, just because I'm gonna give the Lions some credit on offense. And I think they put up 20, 21, maybe even 24 points in this game. But I like those numbers, and I like those picks, obviously, because we're making them. Kind of dumb for me to say. But let's jump to the rest of the NFL. We're going to quickly run through division winners, and if we have any major discrepancies, we'll circle back around and kind of sort those things out.
Do you want to say your dark horses real quick and then go to the division?
Yeah, so sure thing. Yeah. You have some interesting dark horses. I like your picks. Why don't you go first with your dark horses? So in the NFC, who do you think what's a team that could really mess things up this year?
Oh, also real quick, by the way, circling back like 15 minutes, David
Yeah.
Cutcliffe was Manning's coordinator at Tennessee, and that's
Let's
one of the main
go.
reasons he got outside of it being Archie's alma mater, that's one of the
Yeah.
reasons that I think they hired him. So dark horses in the NFC, you have to kind of go through it. We've already talked about how we don't really like anybody in the NFC East. In the NFC North, I think it's a 2-horse race. The Bears are probably going to be one of the worst teams in the league. The Lions at this point have gotten too much hype for them to technically be a dark horse. And then the Packers and the Vikings obviously are already, kind of favorites in that division, so they can't be considered that. In the NFC West, the Niners and the Rams, NFC Championship game last year, won the Super Bowl, and then the Cardinals. You can't win 11 games to be considered a dark horse the next year, unless I guess you could say they are because everyone's shitting on them. But trust me, I lived the Kyler Murray experience last year in fantasy. It's hell. You don't want to do it. I can't imagine having to root for him in real life. All that dumb shit that came out about the homework and this and that. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't think they were wrong to do that. I think it was wrong for them to make it public, whoever did that. But the reason that clause got put in there is because clearly Kyler wasn't doing his homework. And you can look at no one other than Mike Vick, who will straight up tell you the reason that he fell off in Atlanta is because he didn't do his homework. And he knew when he came out that when the reason he was successful when he came to Philly after, his prison stint is because he learned from McNabb and Andy Reid what it was like to have to do your homework and study the playbook in order to be a successful quarterback in this league. And I think Kyler needs to have a wake up Right.
Yeah.
So
So which division are we going through?
who's the last team? The Seahawks are going to suck. And then in the South, uh, the Bucks, who obviously can't be it. The Saints are getting a lot of favorite as the dark horse. I don't see it. The Falcons, I believe, aren't going to be good either. I think they're going to play quarterback roulette all season. So the last team that leaves is the Panthers. Matt Rule, if you look at
Ooh.
his history in college, he's a year 3 guy. He got Temple after Al Groh had made some waves there. They weren't that great the first year. They were okay the second year, and then year 3, he had them ranked most of the year. They won, I believe, a share of the AAC or whatever. He had them take like number 9 Notre Dame team down to the wire when they were like number 20 or something. I don't know. I forget the numbers, but they were a good team. Goes to Baylor. It's a team that is going through an awful transition because of all the shit that happened in the at the end of the Art Briles era. The Art Briles era. They sucked year 1, year 2. I think they make a bowl at like 7-6. The pieces are there, but it's not that. And then the next year, boom, race onto the scene. I think they finished like 11-2 or 11-3. They take Oklahoma to the wire in both games, end up in the Big 12 championship, lose to them. I think they won their bowl game. He goes to Carolina. Hasn't had a real quarterback any of the time he's been there. Health has been a major issue on offense and defense. He hasn't had a healthy Christian McCaffrey either of the 2 years he's been there. Now he's got a pissed off Baker Mayfield. People want to act like Baker sucks. Baker played all of last year with no arm. He
Thank
was
you.
injured the
Thank
whole
you.
goddamn year. And
Thank
Cleveland is
you.
so stupid to get rid of him. People I don't understand how everyone forgets that 2 years ago the Browns were really good and they had the Chiefs on the line. It took a miracle Chad Henne throw and a couple of really bad missed calls by the refs to give the Chiefs that win. The Browns had
Donovan
that game.
Peoples-Jones going into halftime could have scored and cut. I forget if he was going to cut that deficit down to 3 or 7, but instead it turns into a fumble and a touchback
on an illegal hit, mind you.
Yeah. Yes.
Never got called, and the fumble happens, but they still stuck in that game. Baker was great. He went toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes. I think he's healthy. He gets out of Cleveland. He goes down there. He's got DJ Moore. He's got Christian McCaffrey. He's got people want to make fun of the fact that their offensive coordinator is Ben McAdoo, but if you look what McAdoo did his first year as the head coach with the Giants, they were a really good team. They were 11-5. It was Odell's best year. They were good when he was the offensive coordinator the year before, and then injuries and just bullshit took advantage. Plus Eli basically just going in the tank like the next year is what cost him his job.
Mm-hmm.
He's there. I think he's a decent offensive coordinator. He'll do a good job. I think he'll be really good for Baker. DJ Moore is quietly a guy that puts up like 90 catches and like 1,200 yards every year he's been in the league. Robbie Anderson's a solid field stretcher. Therese Marshall can maybe take a step. If not, I think a secret, like a really secretive slide trade that they made that I think a lot of people just don't care to look at because he wasn't that great on the Jaguars. But getting Laviska Shenault, I think, could really help them. McAdoo had him in Jacksonville his rookie year and kind of used him as a Swiss Army knife. If anyone could be used like Deebo Samuel or how Cordell Patterson was used by the Falcons last year, it's Laviska Shenault. Like, the dude was a stud at Colorado. There's a reason he was projected as a first-round pick. He fell a little bit. He played with just some shitty Jaguars team. Anybody on that Urban Meyer team last year should just be given automatic redo. I think he goes to Carolina. I think he helps out a healthy CMC. They got some players on defense. Rule has always been known to have really good defenses. I just like it. Like, I think the Bucks are in a little bit of turmoil. I don't trust Dennis Allen as a coach. Rule has at least won places he's gone. I think the team probably likes him. And I think, they started 3-0 last year and then just got really bad quarterback play and got injured. And they had some like crazy line. Like, it's like the quarterback numbers last year were like 14 touchdowns, like 8 fumbles lost and 22 interceptions or something. That's insane. I don't see Baker doing that, especially healthy, especially with real receivers. I'm sorry. I honestly, they're not only a dark horse for me. I see them making the playoffs as one of the 7 teams in the NFC whether they're the 7th seed, 6th seed, whatever. But I like the Panthers. I think they're frisky. I think they're going to get a lot of teams problem. And if the Bucks don't get their shit together, I could easily see the Panthers somehow sneaking that division away.
I like that. I really like that. The Gideon pull. Wow. That was impressive. I was impressed by that. Not gonna lie. That was a name I had never heard of that dude, and probably because he played for Colorado. But
Laviska, oh man,
yeah.
Laviska's the man, dude.
But I'm gonna stay in the same division. When I look at the rest of the division, obviously the Bucks are going to be favored, and we kind of gone over the instability that organization is facing. I agree. Dennis Allen, do not trust him as a head coach. I get the continuity argument, but this just isn't the same defense from 2018, 2019. Like, I just don't think it's going to hold up. And I think Jameis Winston is going to put them in bad spots.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not trusting the Saints there. My only concern maybe with the Panthers would be defensively. I know they've got a really good secondary with J.C. Horn, and a whole bunch of guys on
Burns. Brian Burns is a stud.
Who's the guy? Chin.
Yeah,
still on there.
they got with their linebackers are still decent.
Yeah, and I just think I'm really, for whatever reason, I'm really buying into the Atlanta Falcons sneaking into the wild card this season.
Really?
Mariota getting a fresh start and at least getting a chance to start week 1 out of the gate is going to be, I think this is the most confident that he's ever looked. And granted, this has been preseason football, but this is the most confident that he's looked. Cordell Patterson, I think, is even still, teams don't necessarily know how to like guard him and D him up and like kind of keep him contained. And he's always capable of busting a special teams play, which can completely shift the momentum of a game. And when you add into the fact that they also have Kyle Pitts as a tight end, who I think is going to flourish. We kind of talked about Kyle Pitts earlier this week. We were talking about like college football tight ends, and Kyle Pitts got brought up. And I said that I just don't think that he's necessarily had the quarterback, at least yet, that can really allow him to flourish, or at least be put in an offensive system that's going to really flourish. I really like Arthur Smith just as a head coach, classic football dude. And I always love football guys. I'm always going to be rooting for football guys. So when I'm looking at Atlanta, also, even if Mariota isn't the starter halfway through the season, I think Desmond Ridder can really take a lot of people by surprise just because he's got that chip on his shoulder. I think he's really underrated in his football IQ, and going through Cincinnati, he's obviously shown leadership when he went through Cincinnati and led them to the college football playoff last season. So he's got experience in big moments, and I just don't think he's scared of the moment at all. And I think he wants to get into the playoffs and really get this team back into the spotlight. And in the NFC, probably one of the weakest divisions, or I should say weakest, but maybe the most up in the air, is probably the NFC South. And I think Atlanta really has a chance to take a lot of people by surprise. And, I would be much more confident in this pick if Calvin Ridley wasn't suspended for the whole season. But unfortunately, that's the hand that they're going to be dealt. But I think that the combination of either Mariota or Ridder could really be a spark that takes a lot of people by surprise. And I think they got a lot more weapons than people understand or really kind of comprehend. Only concern, again, would be defensively with this entire division. It feels like the Big 12 of the NFL, where like defense is just optional.
Well, that's the thing.
Anything can happen.
If they had a more stout defense, I'd like them a little bit more, especially since Arthur Smith is a wow. That was a weird jump there. Definitely a salesman, huh? Arthur Smith is a good offensive coordinator, but like we've seen it in the past. Like if you have a game manager that can go off for like 1 or 2 games, like every like he can go off for like 3 or 4 games and then just keep you in games and let your defense do the rest of the work. That there's plenty of teams that have, Flacco was a game manager for the first how many years, he was in the league until that year they won the Super Bowl. Brady was a game manager that first year they won the Super Bowl. It wasn't until they got Randy Moss that he really broke out of his shell. There's plenty of teams throughout the history that they one with game managers. Um, so yeah, like you said,
And
it's all
anything
that
can happen
defense.
any given Sunday.
But
AFC,
but
AFC,
yeah, and the but yeah, so yeah, I agree. It's somebody in that division. Glad that you agree with me on the Saints because I don't trust Dennis Allen, and
no.
it's
I don't
just
care how many weird ass Jameis Winston workouts I see on Instagram. None of them will get me buying
the
into the fact until he
the
actually
only thing with
does
the
it.
Bucks that I will say that is a positive is the jump from Arians to Todd Bowles because I
Yeah.
think Todd Bowles is a much better head coach, but that might hurt their defense when that he's got to focus. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, so we have our teams. And the AFC, I had a little bit harder time because I feel like we said, they have their 7 teams that are like I think fixed as and you could flip flop all over the place. And then all the other teams I think have gotten enough hype, like the Broncos or the Raiders or the Dolphins. They've all kind of gotten enough love, and then the rest of the teams have kind of died
Yeah.
off a little, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
to me, it's the Jaguars. I'm not saying they're necessarily
Ooh.
making the playoffs. What
Trap
I'm
team.
saying is, like I said, you got to throw out, and everyone gets a redo with that Urban Meyer year. You
Yeah.
get Dougie P, who, while it didn't end great here, the dude has still won a Super Bowl. And people can take away what they want from that, but he still was the head coach of a Super Bowl winning team.
He's called Big Balls Doug for a reason.
And it's just like, and like people can sit there and they can talk shit on him and be like, oh, he's the luckiest coach to win a Super Bowl, blah, whatever. There was definitely luckier coaches, and he won, and I just think that he goes there. It's a fresh start. They get Travis Etienne back. Trevor Lawrence, second year in the pros, he can take a step forward. They have some playmakers, especially like I said, Etienne. They still have James Robinson there. Um, their defense, they still got some guys, that they've been drafting. It's just the fresh coaching staff that they brought in. It's got to be like kind of like a renewed confidence to get all that bad juju, the toxicity that came with Urban Meyer out of there, and just have a new set of coaches in there that kind of give you positivity. And
Yeah,
I just
for
think
sure.
that I'm not saying they're going to win 10 games and make the playoffs. I'm just saying they're going to be a lot more friskier than teams think. They're going to give some teams trouble. I would definitely, if Etienne can be considered, I would love to know what his odds are for offensive rookie of the year, if he can still be considered since he didn't play it all last year. I think Lawrence is going to be way better his second year. They signed some people in the offseason, whether or not Christian Kirk's a true number one, who knows, but it still remains to be seen. But I wouldn't surprise me if we're talking in December and the Jaguars are sitting at 500 or a game over 500, and they got a chance to sneak, like do a backdoor sneak in it as the 7th seed in the playoffs. And, they maybe just make it or they maybe just miss it. I just, they'll be a lot better than people think. And I think people are going to come to remember that Doug is a good coach.
Yeah. Couple of things I want to hit on. I agree the Doug Peterson point cannot be underestimated or overestimated, I think. Just because Trevor Lawrence learning from a Super Bowl winning head coach will be massive for his development. And also, not just Doug Peterson, but the Jaguars still pulled off 2 impressive wins last year and big moments down the stretch where they held the Bills to less than 10 points. And they also stopped the Colts. They ended the Colts season. They didn't allow the Colts to get into the playoffs. And you
Oh
can
yeah,
kind of,
forgot about that.
yeah, you can kind of see the glimmers of talent and a potential last season. And I think now that Doug Peterson brings an element of maturity and stability to the Jaguars, I could see them not necessarily, I agree, not necessarily a 10-win team, but don't be surprised if this turns into like maybe 500, or it can't go 500, but like 8-9, maybe 7-10. And it's like, okay, this is the small step in the building block for Jacksonville. They just need to get out of they have to stop the trend of being like 3 pick like every single season. Like they just need to stop doing that and
Mm-hmm.
really get into just buy into the idea that they can compete. And I would not be surprised if there's a couple of trap games this year, which I'm sure as we go through the season, we may pick the Jaguars in a few games, depending on the matchup. So I like Jacksonville as a
And
good
they
pick
they got
overall.
Press Taylor being the offensive coordinator, who was kind of very heavily responsible for Wentz's really good season and for how Foles played down the stretch in those
Was
playoffs.
to completely redesign the offense like they did in the last 5 weeks or 2 weeks
Right.
of the regular season, and then to basically do what Belichick has done for 20 years and manipulate the offense to play to the weaknesses of the defense. That doesn't take any dummy. Like it takes a pretty bright group of coaches and a head coach and assistant coaches and all that type of stuff. And I'm sure Trevor Lawrence will definitely take a step forward this year. So
And they
yeah,
got Mike McCoy, who's gonna I think he's their quarterbacks coach now, who has is a proven offensive coordinator in this league. He was the offensive coordinator for those years with the Broncos when Manning was really going off. Um, he was the head coach of the Chargers. They were decent for a year or two under him. Like he's gotten a bad rap lately, but he has had success in this league. And then their defensive coordinator is Mike Caldwell, who spent the last 2 years learning from Todd Bowles. And
yeah,
I that doesn't
really,
that's
really
Todd
good
Bowles is a
heritage.
great Todd Bowles is a great defensive coordinator. I don't care what people want to say. He's a great defensive coordinator. They got enough players that are former, stars in college or have done some things in this league that you can count on. And they have they had the number one pick that and Trayvon Walker, who everyone thought was a reach, but then in preseason, everyone's kind of talking like, hey, actually, maybe this wasn't. This kid's really been like playing. They got Devin Lloyd, who everyone loved as a linebacker coming out. They got Josh Allen, the linebacker, who's still pretty good. Um,
They got some
Clavon
talent, and they
Clavon Chason, who was a big part of that LSU defense in the 2019 championship team. They got talent, and it's
they're
just
just not
don't
household names.
underestimate them. Well, because I think they're going to steal a couple games here, and especially in the beginning of the season. And I think there's a lot of stink on Trevor Lawrence, and like I said, it's just you just got to look at it like Urban Meyer fucked that team up so bad with all the stories that are coming out. It's going to be a 30 for 31 day, and it's just Trevor Lawrence was literally supposed to be the next god at quarterback since the time he stepped foot on Clemson's campus. I'm sorry, you can't just go from that to one shitty year with one shitty coach and one shitty organization. The talent is still there, and I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong this year. And I'm just saying, just like you said, we're not saying 10-win team. We're just saying that they ain't going to be 2-16 again or whatever the record would be.
Yeah, I know. I agree. So in the AFC, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Yinzers will be happy with that pick. I think with really the first quarterback battle in almost 20 years, this is kind of a lot of uncertainty, and Mike Tomlin has never had to deal with this. But if any head coach can really build a team, a specific unit to not bounce back, but kind of keep moving forward and keep an eye on the playoffs, it's Mike Tomlin as you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to decide who your quarterback of the future is. And
Very underrated coach. I don't get it. I love Tomlin.
is he
I think he's a
underrated?
great
Because
coach.
I feel like,
I don't think he gets the love he deserves because they haven't like all his success came early on.
yeah, but I think now that we've kind of dug through the numbers of like he's never had a losing season, and the last couple of years, especially when Big Ben was going downhill,
Right.
and that defense was really stepping up and carrying them to what was it, that 11 straight the 11 game winning streak. Now I think the last year or so, maybe overall in his career, sure, I would probably agree with that. But now in the last couple of years, I think he's kind of gotten the credit that he deserves, especially with former Steelers getting more and more into media, and they kind of talk about Tomlin more, especially guys like Ryan Clark and a lot of former Steelers getting into media that they get to talk about Tomlin and how great of a guy he is. Anyway, I think Tomlin being a great coach, the defense is still very solid. You still have Minkah Fitzpatrick in that backfield. You still have TJ Watt coming off the edge. that's going to give offensive coordinators nightmares. George Pickens, if any team has been a wide receiver factory for the last
How do they
5
keep doing
years,
it?
I don't
No,
get it.
5. Like
Like,
it's been 20 now.
has
Like
it?
and even
Oh yeah, because
even more
they've got
because like
they've yeah
it like started with Plaxico Burress.
yeah Plaxico.
Actually, it
Damn.
started with Hines Ward. Then it was Plaxico Burress. They made Antoine Randall into something. Then it was Santonio Holmes. Then it was oh my God, what's the
Emmanuel
guy?
Sanders.
No,
What I was saying.
he is one of them.
Yeah.
Who came before Antonio Brown? That he went to. He ended up on the Dolphins. He got paid big time. And was a. I can't think of his name now, but
Neither can I.
he was the next guy. Then he left. Antonio Brown stepped up with Sanders, and then Sanders became bigger on the Broncos, obviously. And then when there was Juju, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and now George Pickens. Yeah, it's like they just find these guys every time. Like that's the thing. People were like, "Oh, Chase Claypool." Like, no, I'm sorry. Like, and people can call me a homer. It's another team. Like they literally had a corpse throwing the ball to them the last 2 years. Like
Fair.
Deontay Johnson, like anything can upgrade. Obviously, their offensive line is a question mark. That's the big thing. But even Trubisky is an upgrade right now over the corpse of Big Ben the last 2 years. They got talent in Deontay Johnson. They got talent in Claypool. George Pickens looks like he's going to be another stud for them. They have Najee Harris in the backfield. They got Benny Snell as a backup running back. They got Fryermuth as the tight end. Trust me,
I don't.
it's annoying that they always find these guys, but they do.
I just want to know if I could ever talk to Mike Tomlin or anyone in the Pittsburgh front office. I would want to know why they didn't go after Jimmy G. This feels like this would be the perfect marriage for both sides. You get Jimmy G out of the NFC. He goes to a spot where he's likely going to start. Sure, he may be another bridge quarterback, but he gets to go to a spot that's going to contend for the playoffs at minimum. And it just felt like it would be a perfect match for that for both
I don't get,
teams.
maybe the San Fran wanted too much,
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe the price was too heavy, or
or they
Pittsburgh.
just
Pittsburgh was maybe playing or they're probably going to cut him, and then we'll snatch him up
right.
for
That's what,
cheaper.
and yeah, and I think it became very obvious that Jimmy G was going to go one place and one place only, and that was to stick it straight up the 49ers ass and go to Seattle.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I also think maybe they thought they didn't want to hurt Pickett's confidence by bringing in Jimmy G. And then what happens if Jimmy G does really
yeah.
good?
No,
Another
that's
guy, like I don't get it. Like he's been to a Super Bowl, he's been to 2 NFC Championship games. Like, what does he got to do to get some love?
he's got to play better because, dude, remember that NFC Championship game against the Packers, or was it the divisional round against the Packers this past season?
Yeah, but he was injured too.
No, I agree. He was injured. Since that overthrow in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, it feels like he's just been playing sloppy since then. And it's just not. And I think teams don't think that he has the talent to overcome costly turnovers. And I think it's kind of this perception that, especially in what was it, 2020 with the Steelers, or not the Steelers, with Rob Saleh coaching that defense, that it kind of felt like that defense was so good that the defense was carrying them to wins and not necessarily Jimmy G. So it's kind of like this, yeah, Jimmy G can kind of lead your team, but you better have a good supporting cast around him. So I think that's why teams aren't necessarily taking a chance on him.
I get it. Oh, by the way, the other guy I was thinking of that was the in between was Mike Wallace.
Mike Wallace, yes, good call. That's terrible that we forgot that.
Yeah, it was because Hines Ward, Plaxico, Hines stayed there. Randall, Santonio, Mike Wallace, Antonio Brown, Juju,
Yeah, Claypool,
and
now
Claypool.
damn.
What's his name? And now Pickens.
So
Deontay Johnson.
So I think the Steelers will be on the fringe of the playoffs, and if they getting into the playoffs will depend on who ends up starting a quarterback. But let's run through the divisions real quickly because kind of set up the playoff fields, and then we'll do conference championships, and then we'll do awards, and then we'll pick Super Bowl wins. So we're going to run through this real quick. NFC West, who do you have winning the division?
I have the Rams.
Okay, same thing here. We both have the Eagles winning the NFC East. NFC South.
I had the Bucks.
All right, same thing here. I have the Bucks as well. NFC North.
The Vikings.
See, I have the Packers. Okay, so we'll
I think the Vikings are going to steal a couple. I'll explain that.
Yeah,
pick
but
later.
it also feels like
they'll
they'll
a
blow.
little bit later.
Also, it feels like the Vikings will blow a couple along the way as well. When's the last time you've seen the Vikings have a lead and they've secured a win? But AFC West, who do you have?
The Chiefs.
Okay, I have the Chargers. AFC North.
I have the where are my picks at? The Ravens.
I have the Bengals. AFC what's it called? AFC East. Keep forgetting it's the East.
The Bills.
All right, same thing here. I have the Bills, and then the AFC South.
I have the Colts.
I have the Titans. Okay. We've got some disagreements here. I like it. So with the AFC West, this is the most unpredictable division in all of football this year. It could go any which way possible. With the Chargers, I think they're just stacked on both sides of the ball. And with the loss of Tyreek Hill, I know the Mahomes factor is in play, but the part where the Chiefs kind of start going downhill, and this is the part where like Andy Reid starts wearing out his welcome, and it's like, okay, it's not going to be a big fall off, but I think the Chargers are just at the right place at the right time, and losing that game to the Raiders, I think will help them really kind of get a chip on their shoulder and taught them a very valuable lesson that they'll be more motivated than ever to get to the playoffs. Additions of Khalil Mack and JC Jackson will be huge for defensively. So I think the Chargers are just improved the most over the offseason, and I think the Chiefs are going to be really feeling not having Tyreek Hill.
See, I see the opposite where I think the Chiefs are that it's like Andy has learned from his mistakes with the Eagles when hanging on to people too long, and he realized Tyreek's getting up there for a speed guy. Let's get what we can for him now so we can kind of replenish it. They went and at it, Juju Smith-Schuster, or not Juju. They went and got a Juju.
No, yeah, they got Juju.
They got Marcus Scantling, who, is a very boomer bust, but maybe Andy can make him a more consistent or Pat, within that offense. They drafted Sky Moore. They added to their backfield. I think Mahomes has been sitting here this whole offseason and listening to the disrespect. Like, all right, fine. You think I'm all about Tyreek Hill? And I think that they're just going to come out and just kind of show the league, like, all right, if you think we are all just because Tyreek Hill could stretch the field, you got another thing coming to him. They added up on defense. They got healthy. Chris Jones is going to play his actual position now. And I just think that they're a little bit deeper at all positions. And this is nothing against the Chargers. I love the Chargers too. I think the Chargers are just as good. But I like Herbert just as much. I think it's going to be a really tight race. But I think it's going to come down to one of those things where it's going to be like one game separates them, and they're going to be like the first and second best teams in the conference, or the second and third, or the first and third, and the Bills are going to be the other one. And whoever wins is getting either that 1 or 2 seed, and the other one is going to get dropped down to the 5th seed, and whoever's the 4 seed is going to get stuck with a really, really good team. It's unfortunate, but I think that they're 1 and 1A, and I just think I like the Chiefs. I think the Chargers are getting a little bit too much smoke blown up their ass for having really accomplished anything in a while. I don't trust Brandon Staley. He made way too many ridiculous gambles last year that cost them games that they should have won, which would have eventually got them in the playoffs. And I think that until he learns how to, change that um, for the better, to have a positive effect on this team, and correct those mistakes, I think it's going to help. I do agree that J.C. Jackson and Khalil Mack will help, and I think Herbert takes another step. Hopefully, Keenan Allen can stay healthy. I think this is the year that Mike Williams becomes their number one, and Allen takes a little bit of back seat. They had their backfield with they gotta find someone to spell what's his name in the backfield, because I just don't think he's someone that can handle the kind of carries.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
No, on the Chargers.
Oh, on the Chargers? Eckler?
Yeah, I just don't think he's someone that can
Oh,
continue to
Eckler.
handle all those. And they don't seem to have anyone. That they went and signed Sony Michel. Maybe he can be a positive reinforcement for them. But it's going to be tight, and those matchups are going to be fun to watch. But I think those two are running away with the division. I don't get all the hype around the Broncos. Russ is only getting older. I think he's going to improve their offense, but it's, a rookie head coach, and they're going to probably take a step back on defense by losing Fangio, although they do have some players there. And while Russ is notorious for making his receivers better, it's yet to be seen whether Cortland Sutton can be a bona fide number one, whether Jerry Jeudy can take a step upwards or step forwards. And then the Raiders are just a wild card, man. Like, yeah, they got Devontae Adams, but it's
The
Derek
Raiders
Carr
are
is Derek
so
Carr.
top heavy. They are so top heavy
So
that
top heavy. And it's basically like, can Waller stay healthy? What's Josh Jacobs going to offer? Is McDaniels really a good coach, or what was he that? Whereas it really was he that bad of a coach? Was it on him with his how everything went bad with the Broncos? And was Belichick really just helping prop him up? I don't know. I just think the Chargers and the Chiefs are head and shoulders above those two. I think the West is going to get 3 teams in, but I think it's going to be the Chargers and Chiefs are fighting it for supremacy there, and whoever wins that division, I think has a leg up towards the Super Bowl, and I think it's the Chiefs.
I got 3 teams from the AFC West making the playoffs. I only have the Raiders out just because, again, we mentioned so top heavy, and defensively, I don't think they have the secondary to really contain some of these other offenses within their division. So I'm not sold on Josh McDaniels as a head coach either. But yeah, the Chiefs, I get what you're saying. I get where you're coming from. I just think with the Chargers, I think this will be a very big developmental step forward in Herbert's development, Brandon Staley's development as a coach. And this is the same team that lost an overtime game on Thursday Night Football. We were going to record after that game. And I would imagine, or at least I would hope, that game is burned into their brains. And then they're looking at that tape. They're looking at the tape of the Raiders game and saying, we could have been in the playoffs if we just handled these 2 decisions in each game or something like that. And I think this is going to be a huge, maybe not Super Bowl appearance, but I'm looking at my playoff bracket, and I still think that they can do enough to win the division. With the Broncos, Cortland Sutton's coming off major injury. KJ Hamler's coming off major injury. The backfield with Melvin Gordon, and there's Javonte Williams. Is that who's on?
Yeah, Javonte Williams is the guy that they
I keep getting him and Carter confused. I never know which one's on which team. So that backfield is good. It's decent, but can they consistently do that over a 17-game stretch? Remains to be seen. So I'm gonna roll with the Chargers, and I think the Chiefs are just gonna take a step. Maybe they get, or if they do, it'll just be from a lower seed, and then everyone will be like, "Are Chiefs done? Is the dynasty over?"
Right,
And then it's
right.
like, And then the year after they'll go like 14-3 or something, and then it'll be just run through everyone to the Super Bowl. AFC North,
AFC,
you've got
I got the
North, and you've got
Ravens. I
the
think it's a bounce back year. I think Lamar's playing for a contract. I think they got healthy. Then J.K. Dobbins is supposed to be healthy now. Um, all the talk is that Rashad Bateman is the receiver that he's never had. He's still got Andrews. He's got a healthier line. The defense restocked. Like I said, they got Hamilton. They got some other players there. John Harbaugh, outside of one random 3-year gap, he is, he doesn't. The Ravens they're not notorious for missing the playoffs a lot. And so they've missed, and a he's been their coach since 2008. Since 2008, they have missed the playoffs 4 times, and
damn.
yeah, and all that time, so he made the playoffs his first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons in a row, including he made it to 1, 2, 3 AFC championship games in those 5 years, and including winning a Super Bowl, the last one. They missed in 2013, went back in 2014, lost a heartbreaker to the Patriots in the divisional round,
Oh, I
which they were
remember
up.
watching
They
that
were up
game.
like 14-0 or like 17-0, and they blew it.
Yeah,
Then they
I
kind of went
remember
on a
that.
little bit of a down spiral. 2018 made it back, and then then the next year was Lamar year. The year after that, they lost in the divisional round again, and then last year they missed out. So times of the so what did I say? 5 times. He's made it another he's 9-5. So yeah, so 16 year or not 16, 14 years he's been the head coach there, and he's made it to the playoffs 5 times. I just think that he's one of the better coaches in the league. I'm surprised he only has one title at this point. I think it's going to be a big bounce back year for Lamar. This is nothing to say. It's kind of like the AFC West. It's nothing against the Bengals. I love the Bengals. I love Joe Burrow. I love what they got. I love Chase. I love T. Higgins. Um, I don't necessarily love Mixon because of his checkered past, but I do like him. I do recognize his skill as a player. I think Tyler Boyd is the best number 3 wide receiver on any team possible. I think they
Yeah.
got an upgrade at tight end in Hayden Hurst. I think we'll finally see what he can bring. I think he'll be a sneaky good fantasy player and also real-time player. Um, Last year was kind of a lucky run to the Super Bowl, and I think they're only going to get better. I don't, usually you see the Super Bowl lose a regression, but I think this team is just going to take a step forward. And I think they're just going to be a major player for years to come. And their coach was on the hot seat last year, and then this happened. I think Burrow is just a winner. He's just going to get it done. Chase is one of the best 5 receivers in the league already, and it's going to be fun. But I trust Harbaugh a little bit more, and I actually like the Ravens to win this, and I actually have the Ravens going all the way to the AFC Championship game.
Dang. Okay, I may be rethinking my bracket now that you laid everything out. I just think the Bengals are going to be a really good regular season team at minimum, kind of like the Cowboys in the AFC. But obviously, I don't hate the Bengals nearly as much as I hate the Cowboys. But I just think
They're
that,
a lot more likable than the Cowboys.
yeah, I went back and rewatched the Super Bowl, and it just really concerned me how frequently Zach Taylor went away from the running attack
Mm-hmm.
when even when it was going well. And especially in that second half when the Rams defense was really getting after Burrow, it I know they signed La'el Collins, but
They
but
did upgrade the line. That is a big plus. They upgraded their line with Collins and who else? They added another guy too, and I can't think of his name.
neither can I. But either way, um, it still just kind of concerns me about the play calling. And I think that in the AFC North, that could cost, not in the AFC North, I should say, in the playoffs, that could really cost them. But I think in the regular season, Chase will have another great second season. I'm sure he'll be in a race with Justin Jefferson over some type of record in the NFL history books. So I just think that Cincinnati will be really good, maybe go 11-6, 12-5, maybe they can scratch 13-4. I think they're kind of getting slept on, but
Ted Karras, who was on the Patriots, who was really good, and Alex Kappa, who they signed from the Bucks. So they added a
okay.
guard, a
Yeah.
tackle, and a center.
Yeah. So that's good. They're addressing the O-line concerns. But for me, I think it was just like a play calling issue where it just felt like they were trying to gunsling it. And it just that worked in certain spots, obviously, but in the Super Bowl specifically. But I just think over the season, they really have to stick to the running game more. And I don't know if they're going to necessarily be in the playoffs as successful as they were with the running game as they were during the regular season.
Yeah, it was kind
last
of
year.
it was kind of luck. You know, they both the Raiders and the Titans choked those games away, but you also got to take advantage, and the Chiefs. But you know, they can choke them away, but the Bengals took advantage and they were able to hang around those games. So it's credit to them, and I just think they're going to all grow and mature another year. And like I said, I think these are the two best divisions in football,
Yeah,
bar none. That
yeah.
you
No,
know,
I would agree with that.
because you have the Steelers that could be frisky, and as much as I hate to say it, because I don't want any success to come to Deshaun Watson, and as long as he's on the Browns or the Browns at this point, um, I just it's a shame too because 2 years ago even a year ago I was a fan of the Browns, and then they did Baker dirty, and then they got greedy, sold some blood money, whatever. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
It's
I
going to
think
be a
it's
tough
the
division. It's going to be a
Ravens.
tough division.
It's going to be like the AFC West. It's whoever loses that, they're going to be a really hard lower seed to get rid of.
For sure. So AFC South, you have the Colts, I have the Titans. I'm going to take this one. I just do not trust Matt Ryan at all. I don't think that the Colts offense really improves that much. It just kind of feels like the Colts are grasping at straws and trying to plug in any veteran quarterback that they can find. They even got Nick Foles. And again, it's just like another reunion with Frank Reich and kind of hoping that Stephon Gilmore did not look like the same cornerback last year that he was in New England when he got traded from
Yeah.
New England to Carolina. Maybe that was just, kind of dealing with an injury, and maybe being on a contender really changes things. Formerly known as Darius Leonard, now he goes by Shaquille Leonard. He's still a stud, still an absolute animal on the field, but I just don't think that offense is going to be enough. I just think it's going to be all Jonathan Taylor. Michael Pittman is just still feels unproven to me, even though he had a 1,000-yard receiving season last year. I just don't think it's going to be.
I like Pittman a lot.
Okay, you can go ahead and make your case. The Titans for me, I think the Titans know their identity of running the ball and pounding the ball. And you could say, Matt, why are you picking the Titans then if you just talked about the Colts being one-dimensional? The Titans have Derrick Henry. That's the difference. The Titans have Derrick Henry. We've talked about during the college football season and even after the draft when the Eagles acquired A.J. Brown. Treylon Burks is a physical freak, very similar to DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown. I think Treylon Burks is going to have a big, big season. And I would not be surprised if Tannehill gets swapped out for Malik Willis and it turns into a Joe Flacco, Lamar Jackson situation down the stretch of the season. And you see the Titans put up some incredible numbers because Willis will just sling it all over the field, make some plays with his legs that Tannehill just can't make on his own. So I think that the Titans are in a weak division combined with the Colts just having a shaky quarterback situation that I just don't. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to get a lot of carries. He'll be a great fantasy option, but long term, I don't see them winning the division. It's still the same team that lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars in the last game of the season with a playoff spot on the line. So, but I don't know. Make your case for the Colts.
See, I like it because I think they're very similar in teams. Like between Tannehill and Matt Ryan, it's like pick your poison. I don't think Malik Willis. I think he's even more. I think he's even more of a raw project than Lamar Jackson was. Um,
For
and
sure.
I think he needs a full off season, like another full off season to really mature. I think they can use him in gadget plays and stuff like that, but the offense that they have in there compared to what he would be successful in, I think is definitely different from what Tannehill is going to be successful in. Um, like you said, they have Derrick Henry, and the Colts have Jonathan Taylor, and I think the difference is that Derrick Henry has so much mileage on him now, and we've seen this before with every running back in the last 10 to 15 years that has put up those 2,000 or close to 2,000 yard seasons, like Chris Jones or Chris Johnson or Tomlinson and all these, and they just die. They
Yeah.
just disappear. You don't see them again, and it's very rare that they have another really good year. It's they have 2 or 3 good years of heavy usage, and then I think Tomlinson probably had the most sustained success. But like Chris Johnson, it happened with Adrian Foster, and I just think that while I think Henry still will have a decent year, I think Jonathan Taylor's fresher. I think that they have more uh, depth in Naeem Hines, who they can use to
Mm.
kind of shovel him in and out of there. And I believe they also have a rookie running back too that uh, or a second year guy that I think could at least help shoulder some of the load. Then they have they drafted the one kid out of Cincinnati, Alec Pierce at wide receiver that they apparently are a big fan of. Um, I think that their defense is always going to be good, and then it comes down to head coaching. And while I don't think Vrabel's a bad head coach, I don't know. I just like Frank Reich maybe a little bit more. And I think that while they have Treylon Burks, how long is it going to take for Robert Woods to get healthy for them? What do they really have at tight end? And I like the Colts defense better than the Titans defense. And the Titans just lost their best defender and pass rusher for the season to a torn ACL. Did they not?
Oh yeah, that's right. Harold Landry. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
out for the
Harold Landry's
season.
done. So I just think that the division that could kind of be a toss up because I could see Ryan throwing away some games, but maybe he learns now, like, hey, there's still some left in the tank. I don't need to throw. I don't need to like. I'm not 2014 Matt Ryan. I just need to be smart with the ball and game manage and let Jonathan Taylor do the majority of the work. Use Naheem Hines out of the backfield. Go to Pittman. Go to one of the tight ends, and maybe the rookie Pierce. They have one of the best lines in the game. That's not changing, and I just think they have a better defense overall. And so I think, plus the wear and tear on Henry, I think is going to add up. And that's why I think I like the Colts a little bit better. I can see the Titans taking a major step back, getting rid of AJ Brown, losing Harold Landry, and losing some other things. And that's why I just think that I'll take the Colts for that division.
Roger Saffold too on
Yep.
the O line. Damn, you may have sold me on the Colts then. Jeez, I'm rethinking this division pick. We'll see. Okay.
And then the
So
AFC East, it's obvious. It's just the Bills.
yeah.
Everyone, the Pats. It's just been nothing but bad news out of there. You never know what you're going to get. Apparently, they really miss McDaniel. They don't even know who's calling offensive plays yet. The Dolphins, is Tua
Hasn't
finally
it?
going to be the year? Is he not going to be the year? I think they're
Yeah.
so stupid for getting rid of Flores. I think that was the dumbest freaking move they could have ever done. I think it's ridiculous he didn't get another job as a head coach yet. I think he'll actually benefit the
Well,
Steelers really being on that
yeah. Oh
staff.
my God, that's the best spot. That was
And
the
then
best
next
possible.
year he'll get a better chance to go coach somewhere else, hopefully. But I just it's we'll see. And I'm not trying to write Tua off like everybody else yet. I mean, the guy was
No,
a stud
this
in
was it was the same
college.
thing. It was the same thing as the Wentz versus Peterson like debate of like who are you going to keep, because there we heard rumors of just through various news articles and stuff that the Dolphins front office really wanted Flores to play Tua, but Flores didn't like playing Tua because he just didn't
Mm-hmm.
help them win, and it obviously clashed. Um, and I think the AFC East out of the entire AFC is pretty easy to predict. And like, I just don't the wide receiver getting a big payday. Maybe I've been listening to too much Bill Simmons,
Yeah,
but
but it's
it's
it's not only that, he's
doesn't
a big payday at 30. That's the
yeah,
big thing for a
yeah.
speedster. And it's like, yeah, they still have Waddle, right? But
Yep.
then it's like, who's their number one running back? They haven't decided that yet. Like, cool, they added Chase Edmonds, but what is he can never stay healthy, and he's at a change of pace back at best. I would like to see Tua be good, but who's even their coach?
The guy from the 49ers, Mike McDaniel, something like that. He's the
And
guy
I
that
and
he's the guy that looks like he spends his Saturdays like in DC comic book stores.
Okay. And then the Bills, while I like them, I think losing Dable might hurt. Apparently, a lot of people are a big fan of Ken Dorsey.
Yeah,
Um, but
a
like
lot of
we'll
good
see.
news.
We'll see how. And they're another one. Like, who's their running back? Because while Allen can do it, it's like Singletary still hasn't stepped up. They got Dalvin Cook's brother, but then there's also like reports of like, well, he's limited. Like, he's not somebody who can. He's not as like good as his brother, like coming out of the backfield. He's a very kind of like up and north and south runner. He doesn't have the same speed and cut ability. And so, they still have the talent around them. They still have Stephon Diggs. They have Dawson Knox. They have everyone's expecting big things out of Gabriel Davis because he had one quarter of a playoff game. So I still
Yeah.
think the Bills will be there, but I could see them taking a little bit of step back. And so my playoff teams in the AFC, I have obviously the 4 division winners in the Bills, Ravens, Colts, and Chiefs. And then I have the Bengals, Chargers, and Raiders actually as the other 3 teams making it. And my championship game for the AFC, I have the Chiefs versus the Ravens.
Okay. So I'm just writing down the time code. So in my AFC, I have Chargers, Bengals, Bills, and Titans as my divisional winners. In the wild card, I have the Chiefs, the Steelers, and the Broncos in the wild card spots in the AFC. In the NFC or in the AFC Championship, I have Bills versus Chargers in the AFC Championship. I think the Titans get, as much as I said the Titans could be a divisional winner, I think they get bounced early. The Steelers, I think, like I said, I think they'll sneak in. It's Mike Tomlin. That defense is good. The Broncos, it's a lot of moving parts, and that offense has a lot of question marks, a lot of injury questions. And will Russ be the same guy that he was from 2014 to
So you
2017?
don't have the Ravens making it then, huh?
No, I don't. I as much as I hate to be that old white, like shut up and dribble type guy on ESPN saying like Lamar's got to throw the ball. And fortunately, it's true. And maybe Rashad Bateman solves that problem, but I just feel like it's kind of the Marquise Brown situation all over again, where the Ravens don't know how to properly use a guy like Bateman. I could be completely wrong, but and also a
What was
combination of,
it? They were 8-3 with Jackson last year. Then he got hurt and it tanked their season.
yeah,
So
exactly.
that's
He got
something to
hurt.
keep in mind too.
Yeah, exactly. Getting J.K. Dobbins back is going to be huge for sure.
And I
But
think they'll know how to use Mike Davis correctly, unlike the Falcons last year.
yeah, for sure. For whatever reason, I think the Bengals are just going to be hungrier, like somehow than last season, at least in the regular season. And I even have the Bengals like making it to the second round, but losing to the Bills. So I just think that there's going to be a lot of it's interesting. The AFC is going to be tough. It's going to be very competitive. In the NFC, my division winners are the Rams, the Bucks, the Eagles, and the Packers. And then in the wild card, I have the 49ers, Cowboys, and the Falcons. In the NFC Championship, I have the Eagles playing the Rams in the NFC Championship, and I have the Eagles going to the Super Bowl against the Chargers in my Super Bowl matchup. But who do you have in your NFC field?
I have Eagles, Vikings, Bucks, and Rams as division winners, and then the Packers, Niners, and Panthers, and the other 3. The conference championship, I had the Rams versus the Packers. I think the Vikings are going to steal this game on Sunday and have like a
Mm,
leg up, and that's what's going to give them the division. While Aaron Rodgers struggles a little bit to kind of find rhythm with these young receivers. I think eventually they'll get it. I think
Yeah.
they'll realize, hey, we should just lean on the double-headed monster that is Aaron Jones and
AJ
um,
Dillon.
AJ Dillon. Aaron Jones, another one who I just think is so underrated, and everyone's like, AJ Dillon's the better, and I'm like, no, he's not. Like AJ Dillon's good, but Aaron Jones
He
is a
just
much
AJ
more
Dillon
complete.
just AJ Dillon, like people are more like
Yeah,
scared by the way
because
AJ Dillon
he's
looks.
Quadzilla, but Aaron Jones is the
Yeah.
more complete player. And
Yeah.
I hopefully LaFleur finally fucking realizes this year. Who knows? And I think eventually it's gonna like the Vikings are gonna like I could see the Packers being like 2-4 and then right in the ship or like something like that
Mm,
where they're struggling while the
yeah, I could see
Vikings kind
that.
of jump out a little bit. They maybe falter a little bit down the end, but they have the goodwill of the new coach and the offensive system. Cousins has his best year in a while. They clinch the division. The Packers still get in there, and then I think by the time you get to the playoffs, I think Rodgers has righted it. He hasn't really had a good playoffs in a couple of years, and I think this is the year that he finally sticks it together for a good playoff run. And they get to this NFC Championship game there. I think the Rams are waiting for them, and for the second year, I think the Rams get back. And my Super Bowl, I had the Chiefs defeating the Rams.
I have the Eagles beating the Chargers. I'm just already buying into the delusion. And if this turns out right, I would be ecstatic, obviously. And honest, this is probably the best uniform matchup that I've maybe my love of uniforms kind of clouded me. Which speaking of, congratulations to Chris. He won the uniform draft, the jersey draft. Go listen to that episode. Poll was running on Twitter and Instagram stories.
Are
So
they voted that he had the best one?
yeah. So it was like
Really?
team 1, team 2, team 3. Yeah, surprisingly. I mean, we got like 6 votes on Twitter and like only a few on Instagram. But hey, congratulations to Chris. And also go follow National Vintage League 2 while you're at it. So who do you have in the Super Bowl again? Just so I have a refresher.
The Chiefs beating the Rams.
Chiefs beating the Rams. Okay, I have the
I would
Eagles
love it if the
defeating.
Birds got there, and
Oh
I would
yeah,
love it if
yeah,
it's
yeah.
an Eagles Chiefs things. I'm really high on the Chiefs having a bounce back. I can't. I think the AFC playoffs this year are gonna be a blast. I think,
Yeah.
and I hope that the Eagles can figure this out and take advantage and somehow get the 1 or the 2 seed or somehow be able to snake home field advantage for at least 2 rounds, and then maybe the 1 seed gets upset that they get it 3 rounds if they get to the NFC Championship game. Because we know better than anyone the link in January. It's a hell of a place to go when it's 20 degrees and you got a bunch
I
of
got chills.
animals going nuts. It's where it is, but
So
I'd love
I've
to see
got
it. But I think the AFC is just going to be such a gauntlet that whoever gets that 1 seed is going to benefit, and I think the Chiefs are going to get that 1 seed and benefit greatly. And I just think this is the year that I just think Mahomes has just been sitting back and being like, all right, cool. You think I'm all Tyreek Hill? Yeah, I'll show you what it is. And when Hill's struggling on the Dolphins and Mahomes is having another MVP season, everyone's going to be like, oh,
yeah. Yeah, reality will set back in. I actually have the Eagles as the 3 seed in the NFC, and I have them playing in the first round, which I swear was unintentionally. Like I was actually trying to go through this and just
playing who in the first
like
round?
the Cowboys and
Oh, okay.
because I have the Cowboys as the 6th in the wild card, the 6th spot. And that game will be electric. And
Yeah, I'm
I'm just
trying to
thinking
think of how I would line up the rest of the AFC. I think I would probably go because
I
the
kind of
4
did.
division winners have to be 1 through 4, don't they?
Yeah, so that's what I did. I went 1 through 4. I did each divisional team and just kind of rearranged them based on how I thought the seating would go, 1 through 4, and then I just did the wild card from there. It's just 5 through 7 because it's number 1 seed gets a bye in the first round, and then it's
Yeah.
2 plays 7, and 3 plays 6, and 4 plays 5.
I'd probably go Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, because if the Bills get the 2nd seed, I don't see the Ravens going into Buffalo and beating them.
No, I
Um,
don't think so
so
either.
I'd go Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, Colts, and then I'd go probably Bengals. I'd go Bengals, Chargers, Chargers, Bengals, Raiders.
Chargers, Bengals, Raiders. See, I have the Chargers as the 1 seed. I really think that they could in the regular season they could just destroy teams.
So that would
Um,
be the Chargers versus. So the Chargers would have
so
to go into
I have
Chargers, Bengals, Raiders. So the Chargers would get the Colts, and the Bengals would have to go into Buffalo. Ooh, that would be interesting
yeah, that's an
because
interesting
that's
one.
two cold weather teams that I don't think they'd be bothered by. That'd be fun. That'd be a really fun game. And then if the Chargers beat the Colts, the Chargers versus the Chiefs in round two.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
if we got a second round of somehow any semblance of Chiefs, Chargers, uh, Bills, Chiefs, any of these five, any of the four of these five, Chiefs, Chargers, Bills, Ravens, and Bengals. I would love any of those five, any four of those five.
well, and even going through some of these matchups, especially in the AFC, I kind of realized like how deep the quarterback position is. Just like because you can just go through the first round that I have set up, like Bengals Broncos, that Joe Burrow versus Russell Wilson, electric. Bills versus Dolphins. Well, is this two or not Dolphins? I don't know why I said Dolphins. Bills Steelers, like Josh Allen versus the Pittsburgh defense. Titans Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes going up against Derrick Henry is which style is going to win. And
Mm-hmm.
and then once you get into the second round, it's like, okay, Chiefs Chargers, kind of the matchups that you were talking about. Chiefs Chargers, Air Bear versus Patty Mahomes. And then you got if you get Bills versus Broncos or Bills versus Steelers, it could even Mitchell Trubisky could still offer like some chance that something happens, which I
I'd
think is just
even
different in
prefer
past.
it if it wasn't the two divisions. Like if it
Yeah.
was like the Chiefs versus the Ravens and the Bengals versus the Chargers in the second round or something. Like I
Yeah.
prefer it that way. I mean, like I said, even the Bills. Like I don't mind any any four of those five teams would be awesome.
Yeah. All right. So last thing, MVP. Who do you think wins the MVP this year?
I'm gonna go with it's boring probably to say it, but at this point we all know it's a quarterback award, and
Yeah.
I can just see that I can just see Mahomes having a really big bounce back, not bounce back, but a year where he reasserts himself as a top dog in this league. Um, and if not, my second and third favorites would be Josh Allen, or would be uh Justin Herbert, and then it would be Josh Allen.
Yeah. For MVP, I agree. Complete quarterback award at this point.
Which sucks because, like we said earlier, Cooper Kupp should have won last year.
Yeah, I was trying to think of defensively who are some players that could legitimately win this. Aaron Donald obviously comes to mind. TJ Watt, or not, yeah, TJ. I was thinking of JJ. TJ Watt, I think depending on the season, if he shatters some records, maybe, but it's so hard for me to get sold on a defensive guy winning the MVP.
I know,
I
like
just
it took
couldn't.
Ray Lewis being like basically like an absolute monster to win it
And
the year he won it.
Lawrence Taylor going off and chucking dudes on the turf.
Yeah, but I feel like back then when that happened, like you still could get you could still get a
No, it was different because
you could still get a
defenses.
running backs would still get it, and you
Yeah,
know what I mean, like
yeah, exactly. So I just think Herbert definitely number one on my list. Just because I think people are gonna fall in love with the young buck narrative of Los Angeles guy, or not Los Angeles guy, but Los Angeles quarterback. The Chargers have been disrespected in LA since they've really been there the last few years, and takes them to the number 1 seed, sets all type of statistical records, and he goes toe to toe with Mahomes. I think that's where that could be really good, and really set Herbert apart. And I think also a combination of voter fatigue, because I don't think anyone wants to vote for Aaron Rodgers anymore, and
Should have
or
been voter
Patrick
fatigue
Mahomes.
last year for Aaron Rodgers when he got his fourth. Dude, I
um,
always forget Manning has 5 MVPs.
yep. Also, interesting number 2 option I thought of, Matt Stafford, kind of maybe as like a makeup for last season.
Yeah,
Just to be like, hey, you got your one. We know that you can get over the hump. And maybe it'll be they kind of spin the narrative of, oh, he did it again, and it's even more impressive now.
it's amazing
And
that what's his name hasn't won one either. That Henry hasn't won one in these years of dom. The last non-quarterback to win one was Adrian Peterson in 2012.
yeah, that's how
After
well
he
that's
coming off a torn ACL to show you how great of a running back he was.
oh, Adrian Peterson in his prime was like a salivating fantasy football
And then
draft
before
pick.
that, it was so he won in 2012, and before that, it was in 2006 when Tomlinson won, and 05 Alexander won. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's like that. Like, it's like ever since the 2000s, Marshall Faulk won in 2000. Like I said, Alexander in 05, Tomlinson in 06, and AP in 2012. And outside of that, it's been all quarterbacks. It's
So
just, it's like, I don't, as a wide receiver ever won it?
like probably back in like the 30s when the NFL was first starting. But
I'm surprised Jerry Rice technically he won
but
the
wasn't a
he won the
Super Bowl.
Pro Football Writers Association's version of it.
Okay, fair.
So
All right.
I'm going off the AP's version, and if you go by the AP's version, it is all running backs and quarterbacks.
Okay. MVP trophy aside, any closing thoughts as we head into week 1 of the 2022 season?
Um, no, just as for all our Eagles fans out there, like let's try not to
Piss on a
overreact if
parade.
we don't. Yeah, let's not throw a parade if we wipe the floor with, the Lions, and let's not freak out if we don't win by 27 million or we maybe somehow lose. We shouldn't, but somehow lose. I don't know. It's all the hype worries me. I want to believe, but there's still to my head. I'm a little skeptical of Sirianni. I'm very skeptical of Gannon, and I just really hope Hurts has learned in this offseason, and because you don't know what to believe, and some people are like, yeah, he sucked in practice, and other people are like, don't fucking listen to what the writers say. They don't know what's going on, blah blah blah. I just,
It's very confusing. It's very
yeah, I
confusing.
just don't want it to be wasted. I just don't want it to turn around and be like, what the hell was the point of AJ Brown if we can never give him the ball?
Yeah, for sure. All right, that does it all for the Black and Blue Pod. Thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. This is a marathon of an episode. And enjoy week 1, because thank God fall's around the corner. I just don't. If I
God.
see you with the pumpkin spice latte, though, I will probably throw trap you, because just no. That's just a no in my book. That's my book. That's my personal opinion. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will catch you in the next episode.